Welcome back to Sense Talking. It will be a pleasure to embark on another deep dive with you. Today, we're diving deep into an institution that shapes lives, traditions, and even economies, marriage. We're going to spend some time with powerful feminist critiques, not just to, understand the problems, but to genuinely reimagine how marriage could look if equality was its cornerstone. Our mission is to pull key insights from our sources, feminist critiques, and reimagining marriage for equality, to truly understand how traditional marriage has subtly and sometimes overtly dictated gender roles. We'll expose the systems at play and then, crucially, explore how we might build future partnerships that are truly equitable. Get ready to shift your perspective.
What's fascinating here is that this deep dive isn't just about theory. It's about understanding the very fabric of our social lives, really getting into it. We're going to move beyond just outlining traditional structures to examining their deep impact on societal power dynamics and individual potential. Our journey will connect those historical divisions to the very real, contemporary calls for transformative change, giving you a comprehensive understanding of why this conversation is so vital right now.
Okay, so to truly understand where we're headed, we first need to look back. Our sources paint a vivid picture of how traditional marriage laid down a blueprint, this famous division between private and public spheres. We kind of all understand this historical split, right? But what our sources really dig into is how this wasn't just a norm, it was like an ideology, wasn't it? Actively devaluing women's contributions. What were the biggest implications of that split for women?
Yeah, you've hit on the core issue there. This wasn't merely a separation of spaces. It was a hierarchy, a clear one. Women were largely confined to the private sphere, managing the household, caring for children, sometimes called the reproductive domain. Men, on the other hand, dominated the public sphere, the world of paid work, politics, social influence. That was the productive realm. The profound implication: women's extensive labor, absolutely essential work, became economically invisible, socially devalued, creating this huge systemic disadvantage.
Right, that invisibility of domestic labor, the child rearing, cleaning, cooking, that's something our sources highlight as really insidious. It wasn't just unpaid. It wasn't even valued as real work in economic terms, was it?
Yeah.
How did that impact a woman's sense of self-worth and, maybe more importantly, her independence, inside and outside the marriage?
It fundamentally undermined it, absolutely. This unpaid labor wasn't just a burden. It created a profound economic dependency. It's simple, really. When your vital work goes uncompensated, you become reliant on the earner in the public sphere. This made financial independence incredibly difficult, sometimes just impossible for many women. Our sources mention examples, like in parts of India, where deep-seated societal norms actually discourage women from pursuing careers or managing finances independently, even if opportunities exist. And this arrangement, it didn't just limit personal potential, it reinforced that whole societal narrative, didn't it? That a woman's primary value lay in her domestic and caregiving functions, which then, of course, curtailed access to education, career advancement, even political engagement. It just rippled outwards.
Wow. So this historical division wasn't just about where you spent your day, but how your contributions were valued. It literally shaped a woman's entire life trajectory.
It sounds like fertile ground for critique, as you said. The economic dependence piece you just described, it almost feels like a direct lead-in to some of the deeper critiques our sources get into. Let's dive into those now, starting with the Marxist feminist perspective. How did these scholars argue that marriage specifically benefits, well, the capitalist system?
Okay, so the Marxist feminist critique connects marriage directly to the machinery of capitalism. It's quite a direct link they draw. They argue that women's unpaid domestic labor, all that cooking, cleaning, childcare, serves a really crucial function. It essentially subsidizes the workforce. By taking on these tasks, women free men to fully participate in the labor market without those daily reproductive burdens. So this uncompensated work isn't just invisible, it lets capitalism externalize a significant cost. Businesses might even pay lower wages because the reproduction of the labor force is handled for free at home. It's like a hidden economic engine. That's a really powerful point. Marriage as an economic institution benefiting capitalism through unpaid labor. But it's not just about unpaid labor, is it? Our sources also connect it to the broader unequal distribution of wealth and property. How does marriage facilitate that?
Precisely. It goes beyond the daily labor. Historically, marriage has also been a mechanism for concentrating wealth and property, and predominantly benefiting men. In many societies, women had limited or no access to financial resources, property ownership, or inheritance outside of their husbands. Marriage legally tied them to their husbands' financial decisions and assets. This reinforced economic dependency, sure, but it also consolidated power within a patriarchal system. It helped ensure capital remained largely controlled by men. Marriage was used, in effect, to maintain a specific economic status quo.
That's a compelling economic argument. But some might argue that traditional marriage offers certain protections, maybe benefits, like as a unit of wealth creation for both partners. Do the sources touch on that counterpoint?
That's a fair question. And yes, some sources do acknowledge that marriage can look like it offers stability or joint wealth accumulation on the surface. However, they quickly pivot to show how, within those traditional patriarchal structures, even supposedly shared wealth often remains under male control or influence, and the protection often comes at the price of women's autonomy and economic agency. So the core argument remains, any benefits are often secondary to the fundamental structural inequalities baked into the traditional model.
Okay. Fascinating. So let's shift gears slightly to radical feminism. Our sources present this as an even more direct, maybe more fundamental challenge, focusing on patriarchal control itself. What's the core argument here? How does it differ from the Marxist view we just discussed?
Right, radical feminists see marriage not just as an economic tool, but as a primary institution for men to maintain direct dominance over women. It's really about power, control, and, frankly, subjugation. They argue marriage inherently involves a power imbalance, specifically targeting women's bodies, their sexuality, and their reproductive rights. So, unlike Marxist feminism, which emphasizes the economic exploitation, radical feminism centers on how marriage structurally enforces patriarchal norms. It expects women to fulfill specific, often subservient roles, the nurturing mother, the dutiful wife, the sexual partner, primarily for male benefit.
And our sources explicitly mention the sexual dynamics within marriage from this perspective. That sounds pretty intense. What does that mean for women's autonomy and bodily integrity?
It's a critical point. The radical feminist lens reveals how traditional marriage often codified a kind of sexual duty. Women's bodies were implicitly understood as, available to their husbands. This meant women were often expected to fulfill their husbands' sexual desires without full consideration for their own pleasure, consent, or autonomy. Our sources explore the profound implications of this, not just on individual autonomy, but on how female desire and agency were even conceptualized within that patriarchal structure. It's about how this intimate power imbalance mirrors and reinforces broader societal inequalities. Women reduced to objects for male satisfaction, rather than subjects with their own agency.
So, pulling these critiques together, Marxist and radical feminist, it's clear that traditional marriage, from these viewpoints, isn't just some quaint custom. It's a deeply embedded system. For you, the listener, how do these powerful analyses fundamentally challenge the very foundation of what we often think of as normal or natural about marriage?
Yeah, what these critiques really underscore is that traditional marriage is far from a neutral institution. It's loaded. Both Marxist and radical feminist perspectives converge on this idea. It effectively serves the interests of both patriarchy and capitalism by maintaining unequal power dynamics. It fundamentally reinforces gender inequality. It severely limits women's personal freedom, their economic independence, their social mobility. It pushes us, really, to see that the issues aren't just about individual choices or preferences, they're about systemic structures. Understanding these underlying mechanisms is crucial for anyone seeking to build truly equitable relationships, and by extension, more just societies.
Absolutely. But this deep dive isn't just about dissecting what's wrong, it's also about imagining what could be better. Our sources offer powerful ideas for reimagining marriage for equality. So if we're going to consciously move away from these sort of predefined scripts of traditional marriage, where do we even begin? How do we challenge those deeply ingrained norms and expectations?
Well, the starting point really has to be a fundamental shift in mindset, a conscious effort. We need to challenge all those traditional norms about gender roles, about household responsibilities, about the underlying economic structures, everything. Feminists advocate for a redefined marriage based on absolute equality, mutual respect, and, critically, offering women the autonomy and freedom they've historically been denied. It's about dismantling those invisible hierarchies.
And one of the most immediate, tangible areas for change, one that still plagues so many modern relationships, let's be honest, is the distribution of labor at home, isn't it? Our sources really hammer home the importance of sharing domestic labor.
Absolutely. This is really where the rubber meets the road, isn't it? A key reform, maybe the key reform, is the equitable distribution of domestic labor and childcare. Even today, studies consistently show women often bear the majority of this burden. It's still happening. For marriage to be truly equitable, both partners must actively and equally share these responsibilities, and crucially, recognize the inherent value of this labor. This isn't just about being fair. It ensures neither partner is disproportionately burdened. It frees up time and energy, often for women, to pursue careers, education, personal development. And importantly, it acknowledges the unseen contributions essential to daily life for both partners. It's about seeing the household as a joint enterprise, truly.
Yeah, joint enterprise, I like that. And hand in hand with that, for true equality comes economic independence for women.
Yeah.
How do our sources suggest we achieve this within a reimagined marriage context?
Right, they're completely linked. Feminists stress the paramount importance of financial autonomy. This needs systemic support, though. We're talking policies like equal pay legislation, expanded access to education for women, broader wealth redistribution initiatives, big picture stuff. When women have equal opportunities to earn, save, and manage their finances independently, marriage transforms. It becomes a more balanced partnership. It means both partners can contribute equally to the household's economic well-being rather than one being reliant on the other. That dismantles a major source of traditional power imbalance right there. It allows financial decisions to be genuinely collaborative.
Okay, so beyond the practicalities of shared chores and finances, our sources call for an even deeper shift, challenging the patriarchal norms and redefining the roles themselves. What does a reimagined marriage look like in terms of identity, respect, the very nature of the partnership?
Yeah, this moves us beyond those rigid stereotypes, doesn't it? Where men are solely breadwinners and women are only caretakers, that old script. It's about liberating both men and women to pursue roles and identities that genuinely suit them, irrespective of outdated gendered expectations. A truly reimagined marriage is built on mutual respect, genuine affection, not control. It has to value both partners' full autonomy, mutual consent in all matters, and open, honest communication. This is a fundamental shift away from male dominance and female submission towards true partnership, shared decision-making in everything, and an equal sharing of emotional labor, too, which is often just as burdensome as the physical stuff.
That emotional labor point is huge. Finally, our sources call for significant legal and structural changes to really cement these shifts. How absolutely crucial are these reforms in supporting equality within marriage, not just for individuals, but societally?
Oh, they're not just crucial, they are foundational. You can't really achieve widespread change without them. This includes advocating for and implementing laws that ensure both partners have unequivocally equal rights. Rights to property acquired during the marriage, rights to inheritance, rights regarding child custody. Clear, equal rights. Legal reforms must actively identify and root out the patriarchal bias that's still deeply embedded in many marriage and family laws that often implicitly or explicitly favor male authority. By proactively creating and enforcing this equitable legal framework, marriage can genuinely become an institution that benefits both men and women equally. It fosters partnerships built on justice, respect, and freedom. It stops the legal system itself from unwittingly perpetuating historical inequalities. It's about building a framework that champions equality from the ground up.
This deep dive has truly taken us on quite a journey, hasn't it? We started from the restrictive, traditional confines of marriage, moved through those powerful feminist critiques exposing economic and patriarchal imbalances, and finally arrived at this compelling vision of reimagined partnerships, built on equality and mutual respect. It's become really clear that understanding these intricate dynamics is absolutely key to building more equitable relationships, not just in our own lives, but in society at large.
Indeed. It really highlights that the journey towards equality in marriage involves challenging those deeply ingrained norms, advocating for a truly shared distribution of all responsibilities, practical and emotional, and championing fundamental structural reforms. It's about ensuring that marriage, for both men and women, becomes an institution that genuinely promotes true freedom, agency, and partnership, rather than continuing to perpetuate inequality.
As we wrap up this deep dive, it leaves us with a critical question to consider. What's the point for this continuation of persistent challenge of traditional gender roles within marriage in today's society? This was Sense Talking.